Hey everybody, welcome back to the Approved Cooking. Today I'm going to be making chicken fried steak. I haven't had a decent one in like 10 years. I haven't been into the States for the past couple years, and I haven't found a decent place up here in Ontario that makes chicken fried steak, so I figured I would try my hand at it and see how I do. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so let's start making this chicken fried steak. Now, what you're going to want to use is minute steak, or it might also be called fast fry steak or cube steak. Just really depends on where you buy it, but essentially it's just a really thin steak, like you can see here, which is what you want because they're going to cook nice and quick when you're frying them. Now, what you're going to want to start off with doing is hitting both sides of it with some kosher salt and black pepper, like pretty much how you would treat any steak. So hit the front of it, then flip them both over and hit the back of it with salt and pepper. Once that's done, set them aside for a moment so we can deal with the dredge, basically what we're going to be covering these steaks in when we fry them. You're going to need 2 containers, and I'm using 2 pie plates. Into the first pie plate, pour in 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, a couple pinches of kosher salt, and then also some freshly ground black pepper, just a few twists of it here. And then you're going to want to add in about a tablespoon of paprika. I'm using smoked paprika. I recommend you try that if you haven't before. And then about a tablespoon of garlic powder. Similarly, a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And then mix this all together. I couldn't find my whisk, so I'm just using a fork. But, just whisk this all together. And this is the dredge, what you're going to batter these steaks in. Then, into the second pie plate goes 1.5 cups of buttermilk. And then you're going to want to crack in 2 eggs. And then again, just mix them together. If you have your whisk, use your whisk, or like me, use a fork. Really doesn't matter. Okay, time to bring back the steaks. And essentially what we're going to do is dip them into the flour, then into the egg mixture, then back into the flour. And that is how you batter them. So it's pretty straightforward. Let me just demonstrate it here. Into the flour, like I said, make sure to press it down. You really want to make sure it's good and covered in the flour. Flip it over so it's nice and covered. There we go. Into the buttermilk and egg. Make sure it's nice and coated. And then once again, back into the flour. Now I'm tipping the flour over top of it and pressing it down. Like I said, you really want to make sure it's coated in the flour so that you have a nice layer of batter on it when you fry it. There we go, just like that. Look at that. So anyways, do that with all the other steaks you're going to be frying, and then you're ready to go. See, look at that. Here they are. So those are the battered chicken fried steaks. So speaking of which, let's go into the kitchen and fry them. And for these, you're going to shallow fry them. Now I'm using a nice cast iron pan, and I'm going to put in about a 1/4 inch of vegetable oil. Also preheat your oven to 200 degrees Fahrenheit so that you can put the cooked steaks in there to keep them warm while you're frying the other ones. So heat up your vegetable oil to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and then it's time to start frying these. So I'm going to do 2 at a time just due to the size of the pan, and carefully lay them into the pan away from yourself to avoid splashing oil onto yourself. That would burn really bad. I've done it before. So fry these for 2 minutes per side. These are really thin steaks after all, so they don't take that long to cook. So after 2 minutes, flip, and then after another 2 minutes, they're good to go. So take them out and throw them on a wire rack set in a rimmed baking sheet, and then throw them in the oven to stay warm because we still have 2 more steaks to fry. Really straightforward, right? So similar to the first ones, just lay them into the pan away from yourself and fry them for another 4 minutes, 2 minutes per side. So after 2 minutes, flip, and then take them out after 2 minutes. Really, really straightforward recipe, like as you can see. So they're all fried now, but I am going to throw them back in the oven for a couple more minutes because before we eat these, we've got to make the gravy that goes with these. And speaking of which, let's make the gravy now because it's nice and easy to make. You're going to make it with the oil you fried the steaks in. Now there is going to be too much oil in there, so you'll want to pour some of it out. You basically want to leave about 1/3 cup of the frying oil left, like I have here. And make sure you leave all of those little giblets in the bottom. Those are going to add flavor to the gravy. So 1/3 of a cup of the oil, and then add in 1/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour, and whisk this all together because you're going to make a roux out of this. Now, similar to whenever you make a roux, just keep whisking till all the flour is incorporated, and you cook it for about a minute to cook off the flour taste, and then start adding some whole milk in. Now, I'm using 3 cups, and I'm going to add in a small dash of it, whisk it around. As you can see, it clumps up, and that's what it's supposed to do. And then add in another small dash, keep whisking it, and then, just pour the rest of it in. Now you're going to want to whisk this together and cook it on a medium heat for about 3, 4, 5 minutes, and it's going to really thicken up on you here. Like really thicken up. It's going to be a nice thick gravy here. If you want it thinner, you can use more milk, like 4 cups of whole milk instead of the 3 that I used. Then, simple enough, flavor it with some kosher salt and a little bit of freshly ground black pepper. Whisk this together, and look at how gorgeous this looks. Oh my god. So what I'm going to do is just give it a quick taste test to see how it tastes. Here we go. Now, I always suggest tasting it because you might have to add a little bit more salt or pepper. As you can see, I decided to add a little bit more kosher salt, whisk this all together, and now it's good to go. So now that I have the gravy, let's go into the other room and assemble this chicken fried steak. Look at those. Oh my god, those look so good. Man, I haven't had one of these in so long. I can't wait to try it. And speaking of which, let's go in, and there's the gravy. Oh man, I am pumped to try this. Rose looks pretty excited too, to be honest with you. So I've got myself a chicken fried steak here, and I'm just going to liberally cover it in some of the gravy. And I'm going to add a little bit of Tabasco sauce on it. That's a pretty nice addition to a chicken fried steak. I am just so pumped to try this because it just smells so good, so good. And here we go, first bite, and let me tell you, it was so good, so rich and flavorful. The nice batter on the steak was cooked perfectly, fried for 2 minutes per side, and it just came out so good, and the gravy was nice and thick and rich. Oh, here you go, Rose, you want to try a little bite of it here? I totally forgot that there was Tabasco sauce on there, and I don't think she liked that. Oops, but you know what, regardless of that, you will really like this because the steak and the chicken batter, it's one hell of a combination, and it just is so delicious with that nice thick meaty gravy on there. I think you'll really like this, and the best part is how easy was that to come together. It came together in no time. But anyways, that's the end of the episode, like always. If you liked what you saw here, why don't you drop me a comment, like the video, or even subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for watching Idiot Proof Cooking. We'll see you again soon.